going on? Tell me a little about your game.
My game is relatively young. I've only been playing for about 5 years or so.
Oh wow,
6 years.
really? Okay.
So it's semi-homegrown. I've had some golf instruction. And I'm in transitioning from all upper body dominant kind of swing to trying to get the lower body to join the party.
Yeah.
And my handicap is stuck exactly where it is. It won't budge.
Where are you at?
10?
10, okay, that's good though. For playing this not very long at all.
6 years or so.
Yeah, that's really good.
My driver club head speed stuck at 95, which is
normal.
250 on a good day.
Yeah.
So, and I play at a private club with a lot of really good golfers, like plus handicap guys. So just trying to break through to, basically a 10 handicap means an 8 tees that are a slip of 130 or more on the 12.
Yeah.
Which means I shoot 85 all day long.
Right.
And I want to shoot 75 all day long.
Right.
Because the club senior championship, which is about 5 or 6 years away from me, a couple rounds in the 75-4 range will probably win it.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of a goal.
Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah, for sure.
But my old swing really kind of stuck. It's stuck right where it is. So I need to sort of get to the next level of getting the lower body to join the party a little bit.
So loss of power, obviously, or lack of power is going to be one thing. And as far as directional control, where do you tend to hit the ball?
I have a two-way miss for sure. I mean,
Okay.
and add to that, I'm a musician, so the small twitch muscles are used to being in charge all
Right.
the time. So if you need to chill out a little bit, and so that's a little steery at times. But I mean, the times I've broken 80 like 3 times in my life, I felt like I couldn't even feel my hands. They weren't even attached to my body. My body was just steering the ball. It was easy.
Yeah.
And then when it's hard, it's like, I don't know which way it's going to go.
That's the frustrating, tricky part about the hands, right?
Yep.
So, all right, cool. Let me get a couple on video. Just so you know, with this guy, this thing, as far as ball flight, it doesn't show you direction. So
Okay.
don't pay any attention to which.
Who's beeping at you?
I don't know. That's the other camera. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, all right. Let's see what's going on here. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yep. Cold. It was warm 10 minutes ago, and I didn't want to burn myself out. Batters?
No, it's on camera for pictures instead of video for some reason. But that one doesn't matter just yet. Let me see if I can get you to scoot back like to the edge there. See if you can find enough room. Yeah. Just get a video one.
Get a ball?
Yeah. Let's see. Try to get one from here. There we go.
They're big.
Yep, that's gonna work.
Yep.
Let me get this out of the way. All right, perfect.
Same one.
Go ahead. Cool. All right, let's take a look. All right, so let's start with down the line. Posture looks great. It's set up. All this stuff looks really, really good. All right, so takeaway plane and path. Club face is shut, but otherwise, basic takeaway move is really good. The one thing that is going to stick out at me right away is that right leg straightening up and your hips opening right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you can't do that, but the typical thing is the more movement you add in, the more you got to take out, right? So the more we start rotating those hips that fast in the swing, and this start locking out, straightening up, then all that's going to set off a chain of events that's going to want to fire on the way down, where you're going to tend to want to be really active with your lower body. So, takeaway wise, that's the only thing that seems to kind of stick out. Otherwise, this looks really good, and it's in the shut face. Now, we'll get pretty short at the top, so we don't really finish. It looks like, from this view, we'll look at this from face on in a minute, but you've done most of your rotation with your pelvis, and your upper body has kind of rotated with that together, but not separate. Now, you've heard that term, the X factor, the gym clean term a long time ago. I don't really like that because it gets the idea of like just freezing your hips and just torquing your spine, all that stuff. It doesn't have to be that aggressive, but you do need to move them separately. Your shoulders are going to turn about 90 degrees in the backswing. The hips are going to turn about half that, right? It looks like you've used your hips and that right leg straightening up to rotate your body, which means through your trunk, your core, you're really not going to feel much load in your muscles because they're not really doing anything. You're just kind of straightening your leg. And you can see just by straightening this right leg, I've almost made a full golf swing. I've almost made a full turn, right? And I have activated nothing. My muscles are totally asleep doing that. So that's why I don't like seeing that right away in the takeaway, because that is a super common thing that's going to lead to a million things. So, and again, short backswing. We're not really finishing much going up here. As we start down, not too bad. So right there, your hips have gotten back about roughly to square, using your feet line, give or take a little bit. And that's very late in the downswing, right? So at this point, you should already be a little bit more open, getting ready to post up.
That's a challenge for me, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's hard because you've turned so much going back, right, with your hips and straightening up that knee. So if you do that going back, now you've got that much further to go down. But you didn't activate any of these muscles in your core to be able to help you unwind. So those things happening together are going to make it very difficult for you to ever use your lower body, because in order to use a muscle, you got to stretch it first. You got to load it, and that didn't happen going back. So now we're not going to use them coming down, and so we're going to end up pretty much almost identical to where you were at setup, right? Yeah. All that was triggered from your takeaway. This whole chain sequence of events is if I just go back and straighten this right leg up right away and don't load any of this stuff, there's 0% chance of me using my lower body coming down. It's never going to happen. So that's why you look exactly the same as you did at address. So otherwise, and you've got this great looking swing, great looking takeaway, so the club face is shut, but other than that, like everything else looked really, really good. But because you didn't load up your trunk properly going back, you've got no prayer of using it coming down. Release looks good. Yeah, I mean, all this stuff is fantastic. But this was the whole culprit, and everything in your swing. Everything else is fantastic, though. So that's the good thing.
It's not all bad. That's good.
It's all good. It's literally, we need to fix what's happening from here to here. That's it. But it's going to feel very different at first. Let's see, face on. So face on, we're going to notice same thing. Right knee straightening up, locking out right away. This is what I call the lazy man's turn. You let the hips do all the work. I mean, you look at it from the top, and as far as the shoulder turn goes, you just ignore this. If you just looked at that, you look like a tour pro, right? But the difference is how the tour pro got there and how they're going to unwind. They're going to load up their legs and trunk, and you didn't. That's the only difference.
Interesting.
Otherwise, your positions and all that stuff are fine. Your arms are a little bit short. Going back, we got to let them free up a little bit, but otherwise, all this stuff looks fantastic. You start to try and use your legs.
Trying.
A little bit. Yeah, you're trying. I can see it.
Progress is what I call that.
Yeah. But then the arms and shoulders have taken over and your hips have stalled out at this point.
That's the classic, and I'm not standing up as bad as I used to. I used to completely stall and snap and flip at it because that's how I shallowed at the end was...
You'd have to stand up to keep from burying the club.
Yeah. So that's an improvement for me, but not where we want to be.
Maintaining lag, like all this stuff is so good. This is literally just one simple little thing that you need to put together in your swing.
And I get a little pushy pronate with that right arm sometimes, like rolling over. But
you need to do that because you don't have any power otherwise.
Right.
So if you don't use your trunk, you got to make up for it somewhere else, and you're not going to keep dinking 7-irons 120 yards and being happy with that. So you're going to at the bottom, you're like, oh, let me just do something, And that's all this is. That's why you see this breaking down. That will all change. And you see how you're up on the ball of your foot and pivoting there on your left side. So no post up, none of that stuff there. Siri's alive here for some reason. Go back to sleep. So all we got to do is address this, and that's it. Otherwise, everything is freaking awesome. It's really, really good.
That's encouraging.
So
I have a question and a compliment for you.
Lay it on me.
So
I don't take compliments well, but I'll take the question.
So, although I'm a little cold because I stopped warming up 10 minutes ago, that top of the backswing is a little short for me.
Yeah.
My goal is to get somewhere in the 3/4. That's a good backswing for me.
Yeah.
Before your videos, I was real short, and I made Tony Fino look long.
Yeah.
Because I was pulling from the left across my left chest. Like I used to get to about there, literally.
Oh wow.
This idea of pulling my right shoulder back has been like,
Getting
you know, I've had multiple golf teachers who are all very talented teachers, and they're just, no one ever explained it to me that way.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it made sense, and I go, okay, that helped.
Yeah.
And I find this sort of pivot motion a little physically challenging, so I'm hoping you have some Jedi Master kind of stuff to help.
We do.
You know what I mean?
We keep all those, you know, those really, really important secrets until the very end.
We're in the vault, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really, all of this stuff is really quite simple, to be honest. And everything in the swing is cause and effect based. And as soon as you think of everything as having every effect that you see in your swing, this is the problem with golf, is that instructors tend to look at the effects. We look at the results. You look at, oh, ball flight's doing this, divot said that, release looks like this, or whatever it may be, right? The reality is you need to look at the cause of all of this stuff. So when you see that you're flipping at the bottom, right, you saw a little bit of a push and a pronation of that right arm, you may look at that and say, oh, well, you need to do something, or, you know, a lot of instructors will say, oh, you just need to turn your chest through and like hold the face, hold the release on it, right? You know, I can't stand that idea. But that is looking at something that's going on and saying, this is how I'm going to fix it. When I look at that, I'm going to start going backwards, all the way back, and say, what was the chain of events that led to that flip? It could have been you just flipped it. In your case, I look at all these great things. You've got a 90th percentile golf swing. You're better than, you know, mechanically 90% better than 90% of the golfers out there. But you've got one big kind of fatal flaw that is going to lead to a million other problems that you're going to look at this pronation, this flip to the bottom, and say, well, he's doing that because he doesn't feel that he has any power. He doesn't feel like he has any power because he's not using his legs. And
Right.
so that's how you start really fixing stuff, right? So it's not that I have some Jedi mind trick. It's just understanding the sequence and
Just
cause.
unpack it from the beginning, basically.
Yeah, exactly. First thing I looked at your swing, I said, oh, look, I don't like that right leg straightening up. And then I was like, we watched this little slow motion car wreck happening from the moment you move your right knee. And as soon as you move that right knee in that way, then the lower body's turned too much, these muscles don't load, and you have nothing to bring the club down.
So even though the shoulders look like they had
Great.
actually,
Yeah, the big turn.
but it's just these
But
guys
you cheated. It's
Yeah.
how you moved them. You moved them by doing this.
Right.
What do you feel? Nothing, right?
Right.
Now I'm going to teach you how to move this, and you're going to feel your obliques, and you're going to start sweating, your blood pressure is going to increase, and you're going to start feeling a completely different golf swing, and you're going to feel like you've gone to a buffet of power. It's a little dangerous at first because you feel so much more loaded up, and you're going to tend to overdo this. You're going to be like, oh wow, this feels amazing, I'm going to really do it, and then tomorrow you're like, oh, I'm really going to do it, and then you overdo this a little bit. But it does kind of open the floodgates to understanding how to really get some juice out of the swing and where the power really comes from. And you're hitting the golf ball from here to here.
I have to say, since I've been in the RSA world, my obliques, I feel them now.
Good.
That's what that muscle is. I've never felt it before in my entire life. But all right, I'm listening. So
All right, so let me get you facing the mirror here. And so the first thing we're going to do, we don't need any of that stuff. Just put your arms across your chest. And all I'm going to do for a second is just hold this knee. I just want you to pull your right shoulder behind your head. And what do you feel?
I feel the kind of upper lats, these muscles,
Mhm.
really torquing
Okay.
or holding me back a little bit. I don't know if they're lats. Here's a spinal, long muscles that go along the spine.
Yeah, you got spinal erectors here, you got all kinds of stuff going on here. But the main difference is I didn't tell you anything other than just I held this knee and just said pull it shorter behind your head.
Stop doing that. Right?
Exactly, right? So we're going to make this really, really simple so you don't have to think through 50 million things. But you'll notice right away that when this locks in, your glute's going to activate a little bit, you're going to feel a little bit more pressure in your legs, your quads a little bit more activated, and you're just going to start to feel this as the primary rotator, which is your obliques on the side here.
Definitely feel the quad. I feel the glute waking up a little bit.
There we go.
And is that about the amount of shoulder turn that we need?
Yep, and we would turn a little bit further out. We're not going to keep that knee locked in there. At first, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it stay, and then it will limit your rotation. But
Sweating already.
good, yeah. These when you start rotating from here, you start feeling this stuff work. This actually is going to compress your rib cage. So it actually will increase your blood pressure while you're doing these drills. So you will start to sweat a little bit when you're. But again, this is all new. when you're doing this in real life, you're not going to be like wrenching on this. You're just going to be like, okay, turn and go kind of thing. So you won't feel all this tension. Oh, there you are. We just broadcast your phone number.
Sorry.
We'll edit that out. There you go. Good. So I'm just starting to get you to feel this. You're going to start to feel some compression. There you go. And this is going to start to feel a lot more anchored to the ground than what you're used to.
I can feel it twerking, the foot twerking into the ground a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Let me get that off of there. There we go. There you go. So I want you to imagine, go back to address, and imagine that I had a laser beam going right through your knee, and it's pointing at the ball at address, and that laser beam is going to keep pointing at that ball. So I'll get the little target here. Just imagine it's going straight out of your knee, it's pointing at that, so it's a little bit clocked in at address, very, very slightly, and it kind of stays pointing at the ball. Now do the opposite, let your knee straighten as you go back, and just notice what you feel different in your upper body and lower body. So just do it a few times. Just let your knee go, there you go.
Well, this goes back further, but this all feels loose and sleepy.
Yeah, exactly, right? So none of that activation, none of that load is there anymore. And that's what I want, and it's important to do both of these, to do it right a few times where this is staying anchored in. I'm kind of got this knee clocked in very slightly, pointing at the ball, more kind of at the ball. And as I go back, I'm going to feel that it stays there, and that's when I really feel that glute load and activate. And that allows me to make a little more powerful turn. And then I'm going to make the mistake and just let this knee straighten up, and immediately it all goes away. There you go. So that's the wrong way. You feel it right away.
I feel kind of that part of the quad and up here the glute, and I can feel the foot twerking a bit more.
Exactly. So you can feel how much more power, per se, that you feel. And we don't need power, per se, in the swing. We need speed. But you should start to feel some muscles that you're not used to.
For sure. In the real swing, is that how that's going to be?
Not quite that
But
intense.
for now.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go overboard for a minute. Because I want you to become aware of what these muscles feel like when they're really, really loaded. And then when your real swing, it's going to happen so fast you won't really feel it, which is why it's important to kind of overdo it a little bit right now so you become aware of them. Good.
Really feel that glute wake it up.
Good. Yeah, feel it go away right away. And I noticed, I'd have to go back and look at your swing, but I kind of remember you having like a little bit of a trigger. I don't remember what it was, but something to kind of...
It was a little forward press, I think, or
Okay.
something. But
So that little forward press, I kind of remember your body moving a little bit, and that's going to change, right? So if you kind of have this little loosey-goosey forward press that kind of triggers this knee straightening and hips opening, you got to get rid of that, right? Because that's just going to encourage us to keep going. So I don't care, I don't really like a forward press, but if you need something to get this going, lift your right heel in the air and then smash it into the ground and really sit into it. There you go. The fact that you push your heel in there, like literally kind of stomp it down, just to overdo it first. When you push your heel in the ground, that creates ground force, right? You're pushing against the ground, so the ground is effectively pushing against you. It automatically activates these muscles in your glute without you having to think about it.
that was a question I was going to ask. Is you have been consciously, like, in your kicking caboodle video, which by the way is the most awesome video ever. No history in the golf instructions. No one has ever laid out the entire golf swing like that. But the idea of right shoulder, right glute, right heel, but I was consciously doing it. But with this, it just kind of does it automatically.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to, when you push against the ground, just if you stomp your foot down, for viewers at home if you're watching this, stomp it and you'll feel your hamstring, your glute, your quad, everything activate automatically. And that's why I like that as a trigger, as an exaggeration of a trigger. I used to do it myself just to kind of get something going and activate that quad or that glute primarily. And so eventually you just kind of make that lift a little smaller and smaller as you're doing this. is. So it's
So
just,
it's not, in a real world, it's not a bad trigger to have.
no, I mean, you can literally lift it. You can
Just a little.
exaggerate it as much as you want, right? But when you're practicing, I would say, go to the range, you're just loosening up, you're like, okay, I got to reinforce the feelings I was working on yesterday. And that's when you kind of go back to the extreme stuff, like when you're first warming up.
Really stomp it.
Yeah, just be like, okay, I'm going to stomp this puppy in the ground, and that really gets everything woken up. And then you start making it more subtle. All right, so let's go to the top again, doing it the correct way. Now, from there, I want you to think about squatting back to square, not with your upper body, so your chest is going to stay pointing back there. When I say squat back to square, this is going to be both legs squatting down. There you go. We're going to exaggerate this a little bit at first.
So both these pointing forward.
Yep, they're going to kind of come back like you were literally going to do a barbell squat.
Kind of like that.
Yep, exactly. There you go. All right, so you don't have to go very far. Yep, just right back to neutral. So
That's far enough?
Yeah, exactly. So you never want your knee going past neutral, and that's what you did there. So you went here, all this looked good, and when I said squat to square, you went like this. And
Yes, I do a lot on your recommendation with a mirror, the gym, or on video. Like, unless you see it, it's really hard to feel that in space, at least for me.
for sure. Not everybody does this right away. When they learn that this knee has to initiate that downswing move,
Big bowing.
like, all right, if the little's good, a lot must be great, right? And that's kind of the trick of it. It's a lot more subtle. So I'll show you in the mirror. It's just got to go back to neutral, which is very little movement.
Even less than that, huh? Wow.
Yeah. So I'll hold that. Go ahead and do it again. I'm going to hold this right over the center of your ankle. Your knee shouldn't go past that, right? It should be right in line with that. There you go.
Oh, that's not very far.
It's very little. But again, the trick is the backswing. If you moved your knee a lot during the backswing, then it is a long way.
From here, it feels like it's way over there.
That's the trick with this stuff, right? So all I'm trying to do really is simplify everything that you're doing, right? And build power into that simple machine. So by doing this before, where everything kind of moves a lot, now this has to move a lot, this has to move a lot. And so those movements, what you associate with your brain in the downswing is a lot more movement than what really needs to happen. As soon as you simplify it and your knee only needs to move that far, you're still going to want to be doing a lot. The whole trick, the whole mind trick of rotary swing is that you just have to do way less than you really think. And that's really, honestly, it's the hardest part. When you're doing this, you can't move any less than what I'm showing you to move. By doing it, this is the most efficient way to swing the golf club, the way our bodies are designed. So you're going to just have to fight the urge to like, oh, I got to really help out. This can't be this simple. It really is. It's just that much movement, and that's it. So as you're working on this now, the whole thing is to get back to square. So this knee's going back to neutral, and this is kind of squatting back to square, so that our pelvis and our hips and our knees are back to.
While the chest stays pointing that way as long as I can.
Correct, exactly.
I mean, it's a bit of a physical challenge for me, but.
Well, again, we're going to overdo some things. I mean, your shoulders would be everything would be unwinding. So, but right now I'm going to make you kind of exaggerate holding that there, so you can get the lower body to lead everything, and then it'll all start to unwind naturally. Good. Little knee movement. Good. There you go. Okay. Now from there, all I want you to do is push that left hip out of the way as you keep shifting over. So you're going to finish just a little more shift right there. So when that left hip is in neutral over the center of the knee, center of the ankle, then you're done.
And that's pushing the heel into there.
Yeah. Center, the ankle, not necessarily the heel. That's a little too far back. So think like driving loads straight through this bone in your shin.
So like when you reviewed my video, and especially the old me was really address and impact looked almost identical.
Yeah.
Like, not that far from there.
Yeah, very close. Yeah.
And I was always back to the backswing thing. In my head, I was always like, well, I have a short backswing. It's unfixable, so I'd live with it until I learned there's a different way to do it. So, so this idea of the pose is what's going to help get these to open. Is that right?
This is what opens it. This is.
You don't try to open your hips per se. You post in it.
Well, you're doing both, right? So in the downswing, you need to think about it this way. You got to step back for a second, get a 30,000 foot view. What direction is the club moving in relationship to you at impact?
Which way is the club moving?
The club moving, yeah.
I'm going that way, and it's going that way.
All right. So the club's going down because the ball's on the dirt, right?
We're going up.
So the club's going down. That's also going out because the ball's out away from you. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So at all times, as we're coming down, the club is going down, 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 but it's also moving in an arc out away, which means you should be moving up, because the club's moving down, and away from the ball, up and back, while the club's moving down and out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as you're doing that, as you're unwinding, your obliques are rotating your pelvis open. You're also pushing your leg up. That's the down movement that the club's doing. You're going opposite. So your hips are going up and back. The leg is both helping you move up and back, and your obliques are also rotating you back. So it's all happening together through that one chain of event, from just getting to here, back to square, and now my obliques are still pulling my hips open while the leg pushes it open. That's how you do it aggressively, right? Your legs can do a lot of force. That's why you see this long drive guys
They're like right off the ground.
literally off the ground, right? So that's why that little squat move helps load that up, and then you can really aggressively drive off. But you don't need to drive that hard. But that's kind of the key here.
So if the right knee is staying kind of pointed at the ball,
Yeah.
the squat move, does it basically just stay where it is, and the squat is really more this
Just coming
kind?
back open a little bit, but not a ton. Yeah, exactly. That's perfect, exactly.
This, but so it's kind of
Yeah. So your knee during the backswing is going to rotate a little bit. Yours was rotating a lot in straightening, right? So it's going to go, let's call it 10 degrees of deviation. And then it's going to start to come back a little bit. But you're right. You don't want to just like drive this knee back in. It's going to go from here to like there. It's barely going to come back in. Because as soon as you do this, then you're pushing off the right and you're spinning.
right.
And now you're going to learn the opposite problem. You have the problem right now where you're square and you have no power. As you, especially younger golfers who start to learn to produce power because the clubs are too heavy and they're like club swinging them as much as it is anything. You watch little kids and they all look like this at impact, right? Because that's the only way they can feel to move that club with any power. You're on the opposite end of that spectrum. But if you start learning how to, you're going to feel all this power and you're like, okay, this is like having crack cocaine. I'm going to really spin this thing open as hard as I can.
I'll take that problem for the moment. But
And that's what happens. You're like, okay, now I'm hitting it 290, but I don't know where it's going every time. So we just want the balance. Perfect. Perfect, yep. And then post up. Shoulder down. Stay in the shot. Get the shoulder square. Hips are open.
so it's not that.
Nope. Don't move your shoulders at all.
Interesting.
Your shoulders just get moved by all of this. Now you're not used to that because your hips were dead square at impact. So if you didn't actively turn your shoulders would be here, and the club would never get to the ball.
Right.
Right? Now, if I literally try and not move my shoulders at all, they end up exactly dead square, just by my oblique and leg movement.
So this post-up movement isn't also all the way at the shoulder, not all that, it's just kind of,
Stops here.
right, okay. So we're like so.
Yeah. There you go. There. I see how you want to hike it up. This is probably
I'm
one
taught that and I've been thinking out of the system. But
super common thing when people try to really hike the shoulder. If you watch a lot of these roadshow lessons, you'll see a lot of guys doing this, and their shoulders end up by their head and hiked up, and there's just zero power there because you're completely disconnecting yourself from your core. So your shoulder, your left shoulder, when you start down,